I was 14 when this happened. It was a pretty normal night, around 9 o'clock. I was at my cousin's house, babysitting him for the evening. My mom and aunt had gone out shopping, and my dad and uncle were at the movie theater. So it was just me and my little cousin in the house. We were sitting in the living room, cartoons playing on the TV, when I started to get this feeling. You know how sometimes your body picks up on something before your brain does? Like this creeping sense that something isn't right? I couldn't explain it, but it felt like someone was watching us. I tried to shake it off, told myself I was being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Finally, I got up to check the back door, just to make sure it was locked. It was. But when I turned back through the kitchen, my stomach dropped. There was a man in the window, not just anyone. He looked rough. His face was thin, his skin was dirty, and his hair was all matted. Clothes torn, layers of grime on him, like he hadn't been inside for a long time. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at my cousin, just standing there. I froze, but something in me clicked. I couldn't let my cousin know what was happening. So I swallowed the panic and forced myself to act normal. I told him, "Hey, let's head upstairs. Mom and Dad are going to be home soon, and they won't want us staying up too late." He groaned, but followed me upstairs without a fight. I tucked him into bed, even though my hands were shaking the whole time. And then I sat there for a second, trying to figure out what to do. At that age, I wasn't big, about 5'8", maybe 125 pounds, but I played football. And I don't know if it was adrenaline or stupidity, but I went back downstairs straight into the kitchen and grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a meat tenderizer. It felt ridiculous, but at least it was something. I turned back to the kitchen window. He was gone. My heart started racing even harder. I ran to the front door and checked it, twisting the knob, pushing against it. Both the lock and the deadbolt were secure. Every door I double-checked. Then I bolted upstairs with that meat hammer and shut myself in my cousin's room. He sat up and asked me what I was doing, and I just told him, "Don't worry about it. Keep your head down." Then I called the cops. They told me it'd be about 30 minutes before anyone could get there. 30 minutes. My dad and uncle were even farther away. 45. That's when I heard it. Glass shattering. The sound echoed through the house, followed by heavy, deliberate footsteps across the hardwood floor downstairs. My cousin looked at me, wide-eyed, but I motioned for him to stay quiet and get under the blankets. My chest felt like it was caving in. I gripped the meat tenderizer so hard my knuckles went white. The steps were slow, heavy, like he wanted us to know he was there. He moved through the living room, the kitchen, opening drawers, rattling things around. Every sound made my skin crawl. Then the footsteps started on the stairs. I swear I could feel each creak of the wood vibrating in my chest. Our room was only a few feet from the top. I was sure the door would open any second. I could hear him breathing as he stopped at the top. The first door he opened was my aunt and uncle's bedroom. I could hear the hinges creak, then the bathroom. He lingered there, shuffling around for a moment. My cousin was trembling under the covers, trying not to cry, and I just kept whispering for him to stay quiet. Then, silence. For a few seconds, I thought maybe he'd left. But then the footsteps moved back down the stairs, slower this time, almost dragging. And then, I heard the basement door open. The hinges groaned, then the sound of boots thudding down the steps. We sat in the dark, paralyzed, for what felt like forever. I kept staring at the bedroom door, waiting for it to fly open. Every little creak in the house felt like it was coming from him, just outside. Finally, after what had to be 15-20 minutes, red and blue lights lit up the windows. The police burst in. They searched the house and found him, down in the basement, crouched behind the furnace. He hadn't left. He'd been waiting. Later, I overheard the cops talking to my aunt. Turns out he wasn't just some homeless guy. He was an escapee from a mental hospital, a whole province away. That night changed me. Before then, I thought scary stories were just that, stories. But once you've seen someone's face in your window, once you've heard their boots on the stairs, you realize how thin the line is between normal life and absolute terror. And sometimes, you never see it coming. Back when I was in my 20s, I was living in this split-level duplex with my ex. We had 4 cats, and at the time we were fostering this big black lab mix. The upstairs was fine, bright, comfortable, normal, but the downstairs, I never liked it. It was technically a daylight basement, so there were windows at ground level. Down there was the family room, which I used as an office and workout space, plus a spare bedroom and a laundry room. The cats never went down there, ever, and the dog hated it. He'd plant his paws at the top of the stairs and whine if I tried to coax him. I told myself it was just the vibe, that I didn't like being surrounded by low windows where anybody could be watching. But deep down, I always felt like something was off down there. The first weird thing that happened, this was when my ex was home upstairs gaming. I was doing laundry. I had my headphones in, music up loud. And as I'm loading clothes into the washer, I hear someone snap their fingers right in my ear, clear as day, like someone standing beside me going, snap, snap, trying to get my attention. I spun around so fast I dropped half the clothes on the floor. No one was there. My ex never even left his chair. I convinced myself I imagined it, that I was jumpy because I hated being down there anyway. But the second time, I wasn't imagining anything. One weekend, my ex took half our little zoo with him to visit his family in the city, 2 of the cats in the lab. That left me with the other 2 cats, who were lounging upstairs while I went downstairs to print coupons. This was back when you had to actually print them. I'm sitting at the computer when I hear it, the sound of the front door unlocking, the knob turning, the door opening and shutting. Then, footsteps. Heavy, clear, unhurried steps across the landing right above me. I froze. Then I called out, "Hey, you're back early." Silence. The footsteps stopped right at the top of the stairs that led down to me. I pushed my chair back and walked toward the bottom of the staircase, expecting to see my ex standing there with the dog wagging his tail and the cats scattering around his legs. But the landing was empty. I ran upstairs. Nobody. I looked out the windows. Our driveway was empty, no cars on the street. Neighbors weren't even home. My cats were still lounging on the couch, perfectly calm. I grabbed my phone and called my ex. He answered, and when I told him what I'd just heard, he went silent for a second and then said, "I'm still at my parents' place. I'll leave right now." So now I'm alone in that house, heart pounding, every noise making me flinch. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself maybe I misheard. But then I realized something. The front door had actually unlocked. I'd heard the mechanism turn. And the thing is, the lock was stiff. You had to jiggle the key just right. There was no mistaking it. I couldn't shake the thought that maybe someone had come in, someone who was still in the house with me. I locked myself upstairs in the bedroom with the cats, called the cops, and waited. When they showed up, they searched every room, basement, closets, behind furniture. Nothing. No forced entry, no signs of anyone being there. But here's the thing that still sticks with me. When the officer came back upstairs, he looked uneasy. He asked me, "You sure you didn't already have someone over? Maybe they just slipped out when you didn't notice?" I told him no, I'd been downstairs the whole time, right by the stairs. Nobody had passed me. Nobody had left. That night, my ex got home, and we both agreed from then on that if he ever left town again, he'd leave the dog with me. Because the cats never cared, but that lab, he always knew when something was wrong. And I can't prove it, but deep down, I know I wasn't alone in that house that day. The sound of the door unlocking, the footsteps stopping at the top of the stairs. I know someone was there. I just never found out who or how they got in. A couple years back, I was renting this small house about 20 minutes outside of Springfield. It wasn't in the middle of nowhere or anything, just far enough from town that it felt isolated once the sun went down. I was living alone at the time because of work. The layout of the house was kind of odd. My bedroom was downstairs, and right outside the bedroom door there was a narrow staircase leading to the upper floor. I never really used the upstairs. It was mostly empty, just a couple of old rooms the landlord used for storage. But having those stairs right by my door at night always gave me this uneasy feeling, like someone could be standing up there looking down at me while I slept. The weird stuff started small. I would hear my name being called, clear as day. Sometimes it sounded like my mom's voice, sometimes my brother, sometimes a close friend. Always familiar. And it was always just wrong enough to make my skin crawl. Like they were using voices I knew, but not quite getting them right. At first, I chalked it up to stress, maybe even dreams bleeding into my waking hours. But it kept happening. I would be brushing my teeth and hear my mom calling from upstairs, cheerful, like she was trying to get my attention. I would open the door and no one would be there. Then it escalated. Late one night, I woke up to knocking on my bedroom door. Not random tapping, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. My stomach dropped because the knocks came from inside the house, just feet away from where I was lying. I froze, listening, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. A few seconds later, 3 more knocks. I sat up, trying to convince myself it was pipes or the house settling, but then I heard it. A laughter. A man and a woman laughing together, muffled, like they were right outside the door but trying to hold it in. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. Daytime wasn't much better. The whole house had this heaviness to it, like the air itself was thicker. I would be sitting in the living room working, and suddenly the TV would turn on to static, or I would hear footsteps on the stairs beside my bedroom. Always the stairs. There were 2 times when I saw something. Both were just flashes, milliseconds, but they were enough. The first time, I was shutting down my laptop at the dining table. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone walk past the doorway. A tall figure, thin, moving fast. I jumped up, thinking maybe someone had actually broken in, but the house was empty, doors locked, windows shut. The second time, I was in bed, staring at the ceiling, when something moved at the top of the staircase. Just a shape, darker than the shadows, hunched and watching, and then it was gone. I started sleeping with the light on after that. When I finally worked up the nerve to tell my landlord what was happening, he didn't even let me finish. He laughed it off, said no one had ever complained before. Then, a week later, I got a notice taped to my door saying I had 30 days to vacate. That told me everything I needed to know. He believed me. He just didn't want the trouble. I packed up and left before the 30 days were up. And I'll tell you this. I've lived in apartments, houses, basements, even a trailer once, and I've never felt anything like that place. The voices mimicking people I loved, the laughter at my bedroom door, that figure on the stairs. I don't know what was in that house, but it wasn't human, and it wanted me to know it.